So let's move on to Everton now. They slipped further into danger at the weekend with a fourth successive Premier League defeat. Paddy Boyland covers the club for The Athletic and joins us now. You sort of have a pained expression on your face. I feel like I ought to, a bit like when you go to the dentist. I ought to say I'll try to make sure that this doesn't hurt too much over the next 10 minutes.
I appreciate it. It's
however, the stat we had last night. They've got 9 points out of the last 60 available. I mean, good grief.
Yeah, I mean, that's half a season, more than half a season, where they've only taken 9 points. So, I mean, extrapolate that over a full campaign and you're looking at 18 points total. So it's more or less been a complete disintegration, if you can call it that, from the early days under Rafael Benitez. I mean, that was only 6 months ago and they started pretty well. I remember coming away from a 1-1 draw against Manchester United at Old Trafford thinking that he'd really managed to get a tune out of this squad.
And then you realised that United made everybody look good around that period.
And then it quickly became apparent that, yes, everybody does look good against Manchester United. So it was utterly meaningless. But the extent of the drop-off since then has obviously been stark. You talk about that statistic there. I think that paints the picture perfectly. And I was looking back over the final stages of the game on Sunday and the response from the crowd. And instead of boos or jeers or anything at full time, what really struck me was the silence. It was like a morgue. It was a deathly silence. And almost this feeling, I think, from the supporters that confidence has ebbed away in the team, in their ability to fight and to battle against what's coming their way. Just despondency more than anything. And you could see that reflected in the players as well. I mean, half of them slumped to the turf and had to be pulled up by Joe Edwards and Frank Lampard's backroom staff. So I think that paints the picture there of where Everton are as a club.
And that's the thing that really struck me yesterday was just how flat everything was. And it's very easy to overreact to every single result in a relegation battle for every club. So immediately, Watford have got hope because they've won at Southampton. God, Leeds and an injury time winner. But out of all the clubs that are fighting, maybe with the exception of Norwich, there appears either a fight on the field, a glimmer of hope on the field. I mean, even Burnley haven't been playing that badly. They missed a lot of chances at Brentford, or a passion and a fight off the. I mean, Ellen Road was rocking yesterday, partly for the love, I think, of the club, and even though they sacked Bielsa, what the owners are trying to do, and Evertonians don't have that towards their ownership, do they? Because of everything that's gone on, and it's, as you say, it's a resignation, or as I say, flat. I can't quite put my finger on it.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with asking the supporters to go to the well time after time, as they've done this season, is that eventually there's going to be a stumbling block. There's going to be a time when the atmosphere is great, but things go against Everton, and then everything just drops off. I think there's almost like a collective fatigue that's set in, certainly amongst the supporters, being asked against Brentford and against Leeds and against Manchester City, where the atmosphere was fantastic at Goodison, to almost spark something in these very highly paid players. There's only so often I think you can do that. Only so often that passion can get you through. And as we know, that's kind of not enough in this league. So I actually thought it was chalk and cheese. First half atmosphere really good. Everton, to my money at least, shaded it in terms of chances. Not possession, but Richarlison's chance was the big chance of the first half. But it's what happens in the face of adversity when things are going wrong, and how the players respond to that, and then how the fans view what the players are doing and respond to that as well. That kind of strikes home really clearly at this moment in time. So it's kind of hard to see where they go from here, to be honest. You mentioned the record over the past 20 games. It would be far too simple to say this is purely Lampard's fault. This is purely the players' fault. I would argue actually that it's just about everybody's fault at the club. There's failure across the board, even going down into the academy setup here. This is what happens when a club collectively and cumulatively gets it wrong across all areas.
Has Lampard done anything differently to Benitez?
I think in terms of style, it's very different. It's certainly a lot more modern in approach in terms of high press, all the terminology you would expect from a manager that wants to adhere to more modern philosophies. So they're pressing from the front more. I think what that's done in turn is it's created much more space in behind for opposition sides to exploit. So I couldn't believe when I got to Tottenham on Monday night and Everton pressed to that extent and that high and left Son, Harry Kane, Reguilon with that amount of space to run into. It was kind of naivety in the extreme, as far as I'm concerned. Benitez would not have done that, but I think there was just utter misery under Benitez. It was like defensive football, but with loads of flaws, loads of foibles. Lampard's been much more positive. He's looked to inject kind of newfound confidence in the players. I think in the early stages that really permeated through to us. We could see that the players were enjoying it more, wanted to have that bit more responsibility on the pitch. But it has to be backed up by results and it has to be backed up by performances. And so far, I mean, it's 4 defeats in 5 now. They're only above the relegation zone on goal difference. So it's a time for action.
Their running is absolutely horrific.
It is. They play Manchester United, Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool away from home, Leicester twice. So it's not an easy running by any stretch. I'd argue that it's tougher than anybody else that they're competing against. And I think this is why there's such fear and panic at the moment amongst Everton supporters and around the club in general. This feels like the window where they have to pick up points. So, I mean, they've dropped points against Southampton. They've been to Newcastle and lost. Thursday feels like the biggest game. And I think, like you said earlier, sometimes we are prone to hyperbole here. And sometimes we let one-off results get the better of us. But I do think it is right to say that Thursday is about as an important game as Everton have had in a long time, maybe in more than a decade, purely because what it means in terms of pulling clear of sides around them, creating a bit of breathing space, overhauling the kind of the negative atmosphere that's set in. If Everton were to beat Newcastle, and I think that's a tough prospect right now, they need
Goodison rocking for that, don't they?
They do, and that would put them 3 points ahead of the relegation zone, 4 ahead of Burnley in 19th, having played the same number of games as Burnley. They pull further clear of Watford, despite having played 2 games fewer than them. So there is a way out of this for Everton, but the wiggle room is really narrow. It's really small, and because of the fixtures to come, it's a case of kind of when, if at all, kind of thing. So I think there's a lot of onus on Thursday and the games to come. And if they don't spark something soon, then they are basically running out of time.